Gandhi is questioned?
Good evening, Shivani. I see everybody has brought their preconceived notions to the table. The singular fact remains that with the Congress party and with the questioning of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, there are two questions that we ask. One, why is it that all these constitutional institutions, whether it's the IT, it's the ED, or even whether it's the judiciary and whatnot, why is it that it's only opposition leaders that seem to be cherry-picked to fill up the rosters of all these organizations? While the BJP has enough and more people who are out in public with serious offenses against them and no action is taken, one. And second is, let me clear one thing for you. When we wanted to start with the Satyagraha, when Mr. Rahul Gandhi where we wanted to walk with him to the ED, you saw the manner in which they imposed 144, the manner in which they walked into the AICC. Today, nationwide, there is a Satyagraha of Congress PCCs, the Pradesh Congress committees. I am part of one currently sitting in our Congress Bhavan, and we have also seen police brutality. We have seen the manner in which they are barging into our own peaceful offices and the manner in which they're removing people.
But Aishwarya, let's be honest, it cannot be one way alone. You may have some objections to how the police is behaving. Frankly, imposing section 144 in central Delhi, I don't know if there's too much to grouse over that. But let's say I take your point that you have certain questions to ask and they're not new. But how do you explain these visuals? I mean, yesterday, the Congress representative of my show was saying that price rise is the biggest issue in the country that needs to be discussed. You believe that the common public is suffering because of inflation and price rise. Yet an innocent person's vehicle is being burnt. What is wrong? What is the wrong that person did? Who owned this bike?
First of all, I have no verifiable information as to whose bike that was, because there was a case also in Karnataka of the recent. Instances of arson and such are also taken upon by the party seriously. But in the agitation and the anger in which you're treating the party workers, in which you're arresting without any sort of bail. I still have 4 Youth Congress workers here who have not been given bail, though the BJP for their protest seems to get bail right in that instant. And you see that sort of agitation and anger. And this is not just about Mrs. Sonia Gandhi. This is the larger fact. And that's why opposition parties have come together to stand in solidarity. What happened today in front of the Gandhi statue in Parliament?
Is the opposition standing in solidarity with you on this issue? No, one second. Aishwarya, is the opposition standing in solidarity with you on this issue? On these protests? I don't think so.
One second. The opposition did, on the first day of Mrs. Gandhi's questioning, did put out a statement of what? One, saying we believe that there is something absolutely wrong in the fact that, you have only opposition party members being targeted. Today we spoke up about what the various issues that are plaguing the country and the manner in which you obviously bulldozed people out of there, the manner in which 19 MPs in the well of the House have been suspended for the rest of the session, mind you, very suspiciously in line for particular voting that will happen. And you want us to believe that everything is free and fair.
No, all of those issues I take. All of those issues I take. I'm objecting to the manner in which these protests are happening. As a political party, and I think we've discussed this before when Rahul Gandhi was being questioned, as a political party and as political workers, you have greater responsibility to not have your protest descend into utter chaos. Let RP Singh come in on the points that you've made. Aishwarya, I'll come back to you. Let RP Singh come in. Yeah.
I hope I'll be heard patiently. See, issue is that when Mallikarjun Kharge ji is being questioned in the same case, or Pawan Bansal is being questioned in the same case, they don't get ruckus. They still think that we are monarchy-led country and they are the privileged class. That no one should question Sonia Gandhi or Rahul Gandhi because they are untouchable, they are God sent, they are kings and queens and prince. So that's the problem. In democracy, everyone is equal. So I, so you, so Sonia Gandhi, so Rahul Gandhi, so Mallikarjun, so Pawan Bansal. But that's not the case here. And again, they can keep saying whatever they want to say, but they have to go and answer it to the ED. And then they have tried their best going to the courts, various courts in the country, and every court has rejected their pleas, saying that, sorry, this is not admissible, you have to ultimately go and present yourself to the ED and answer to the ED. So let them answer this. And then how did that money got routed from Delhi to the Dortex and then Dortex to back to the companies here, and the people in the Dortex and people otherwise have spoken now. So the questions will be raised, questions will be asked. They can try, and how the balance sheets are being dressed up, window dressed up. So all these questions will be asked. So they have to answer those. They are not born with silver spoons. I mean, gone are the days when they used to think, oh, no one can touch us. And this case started, let me be very clear, this case started way back in 2012
Yes.
by the order of the court. And 2012 was a UPA regime, not BJP regime.
No, but let me take that point about the Gandhis being untouchable, because that seems to be the strain that is emerging. Aishwarya, before I go to other guests, I want you to respond on that. It is a fact that when other Congress leaders were questioned by the agency in this very case, there were no such protests.
Shivani, can you give me a timeline of when Mr. Pawan Kumar Bansal and when Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge and other people who are shareholders in this or have any stake or even directors on this were actually questioned? One. And second thing, whether it was Mr. Chidambaram or whether it was my leader, Mr. D.K. Shivkumar, that every single time that they were questioned or even when they were jailed in Delhi, that we saw our entire PCC go up, we saw the solidarity of the Congress party. And this sort of purported, this, oh, there is allegiance only to one person and not to the other. And, this sort of slight, and rather from the side of the BJP, which is run only by two people, though they seem to have or pretend they have internal democracy, is rank in irony. And Shivani, my party, for whichever leader that has had any of this vendetta politics against them, also across party lines, has stood in solidarity, and it is my prerogative to do so. And if that is the manner in which we want to do so, we will. And you talk about this agitation and anger, Shivani, 10 seconds. We were peaceful today in our protest, and you saw the visuals of how my national president, Youth Congress President Srinivas, was having his hair pulled by the cops. And you expect people not to retaliate. Do you believe
Retaliate?
that,
Are you seriously talking about retaliating to the police?
Shivani, you
Aishwarya, are you seriously talking about retaliating against the police? Your ground's taken. But what you mentioned about Srinivas happened a few weeks ago. Why is this happening today?
Today, have you not watched the news today, Shivani? Have you not watched
the one that you're talking about, B.V. Srinivas, that he was allegedly
kicked? His hair is being pulled and pushed into the vehicle. ANI has clarified. The police department said they'll take action. You have a peaceful protest turning so violent, where that man is basically having his hair pulled out by a cop on national channels in television.
But what is the concept of retaliation here?
About the police brutality.
As a political party, are you going to retaliate physically by burning buses, bikes, cars on the streets of the country? What is your responsibility here?
No. As a political party, we very responsibly wanted to have a peaceful satyagraha, which turned into obviously police brutality and the manner in which they were acting against us. And in that moment, obviously, first of all, we do not condone any sort of violence. Let me reiterate that.
And yet it keeps happening in your protest.
Obviously, this sort of anger and aggression coming out.
I'm sorry, Aishwarya, on national television, I hope you will understand, as a political party representative, anger and angst is not a justification for vandalism and arson. Let's be clear about that.
But you should tell the fringe elements of the BJP and all their affiliates of the same. Maybe then we'd have fewer sort of communal skirmishes and riots.
But what goes in those cases goes for you too. I'm not sure why you're bringing that in, but that doesn't absolve the Congress workers. RP Singh, very quickly, I have to go to our other guest now.
What did I say, Mr. RP Singh?
No. Let me answer. 11th. Give me a second, ma'am. 11th April, and then 16th April was the date for Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge and Mr. Pawan Bansal. And for your information, yesterday we had a protest. Our state president was dragged by police. Our state general secretary was dragged by police on the road. We never told our cadre to go and burn buses. Please, I'll send you a video right now, where you can see our general secretary of state have been dragged by police like anything from one end to the other end. Because we were protesting against what's happening in Delhi, against the liquor scam in Delhi.
Well, that is certainly now going to raise questions over how political parties... I'm not really saying whether one protest is better than the other. But certainly the visuals that are emanating from the Congress protests are the same over and over again.
They don't answer to us. It's not a monarchy, it's a democracy, ma'am. It's no more
Mr.
UPA regime where cops are handled by you.
The governor would not be doing what he's
you.
doing to Mr. Kejriwal. The cops would not be doing what they've done with the Delhi administration. Mr. Kejriwal wouldn't be crying foul about how he has no control of his own cops. Right? And that is the reality. Wonderful optics for you that your office bearers got beaten up. But it's not optics for us when our leaders are in the hospital with serious injuries.
I still question the same. My question